Welcome back to Wellness with Delaney. Today I'm with farmer Rob McDaniel, the founder of Primal Pastures, and we are talking about chickens. I am so excited about this episode. I have been wanting to discuss the greenwashing in the chicken and egg industry for ages and have not found anyone who's doing it right until now. So, Rob, thank you so much for coming on and just sharing your wisdom with the audience today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be on here and talk about it.
Yeah, so just to kind of give the audience a little warm up, can you tell me a little bit about Primal Pastures and what you guys are?
Yeah, so we started Primal Pastures back in 2012, and essentially what happened is our family kind of all came to the consensus that we wanted to eat healthier, we wanted to make lifestyle changes. So we really started paying attention to what we were eating, started buying different things in the grocery store based on what we thought were healthier options based on the labels. Kind of got into the whole label game, realized that most of what we were buying in the store was just labeled nicely, but not raised any differently than commercial chicken. And so at the time, we had a little bit of land in Temecula that my parents were leasing. We had maybe an eighth of an acre in the backyard, and we said, well, let's just raise our own chickens. So we bought 50 chicks, put them on grass, said, hey, we're going to raise this for our family. We're going to feed them an organic, soy-free diet. We're going to keep them on pasture every day, move them to fresh pasture, and basically built a model that we wanted to feed our family. In the process, we started talking to people about it, telling people about it, and other people got excited about it. And after the 50 chickens, we ended up selling all 50 of the first chickens, didn't even get a try our first batch. And then we went to 100, then 200, and then realized, okay, there might be a business here. And then grew from there and eventually added lamb, beef, pork, turkeys, eggs, honey, all sorts of things.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that it started with family and just being on your own journey because I think those are my favorite business endeavors. The ones where you find out it didn't start with like how can I make the most money possible. It started with
Right.
how can I nourish my family the best possible. And for you having a physician assistant background, how did that impact the way you view health and wellness when you kind of went down this journey?
Yeah, so it's super interesting because I was a college athlete, played basketball in college, thought that I was pretty healthy, but getting out of college, I started noticing that I was having like digestive issues, just things that a 23-year-old really shouldn't have. And so that's kind of initially what triggered it. And so I started paying attention to it. I was like, all right, well, um, I knew that I wanted to be a physician assistant. I wasn't yet. So when we started the company, I started paying more and more attention to what I was eating, how it was raised, things like that. And then when I finally got into PA school, it was super interesting because I knew about a million times more than any of the instructors or anything when it
Wow.
came to nutrition. I always laugh about it, but our white coat ceremony, which is the first day they give you your white coats, it's like a ceremony just to kind of get you into it. It was sponsored by Denny's.
Oh my gosh. What?
No knock on Denny's. I mean, whatever. But I mean, if you're supposed to foster people's health, it's. I mean, I just thought that was hilarious. I was like, okay, we're going to be in charge of tens of thousands of patients' health over our career, and we're already being sponsored by Denny's day one. So I always laugh at that. The amount of nutrition and health education we got in PA school was maybe a 1 hour class,
Wow.
and nobody really talked about what you were putting into your body having any effect on all of these diseases that we're learning how to treat. And so it's a little blurb on everything for treatment was weight loss, diet modification, but didn't give any insight onto what that would look like. And so it was interesting having more of a background on like a holistic side going into that because I was able to ask questions and it was, I mean, Western medicine just isn't really prepared for more preventative. It's all reactive. And so everything we learned and were taught was, okay, once somebody already has this, how do you treat it? Not, hey, how do we just stop people from even having this?
Yeah, and I think that's such an important question, like the preventative aspect. So you bringing in a holistic perspective, being in that Western medicine world is what we need more of because I think that it just really brings in a beautiful integration. And it does blow my mind a lot. I'm a certified health coach and I've received more nutrition training than pretty much any doctor I've ever had, other
Oh yeah.
than it took me a long time to find my naturopath who I have now. But up until then, I never had a doctor once ask me what I was eating, once ask me about lifestyle. It's always like, let me just put you on spironolactone or birth control or all these things. And that shouldn't be the first line of defense in any case. So for you, did you find that you faced a lot of pushback bringing the holistic into the Western?
Yeah, so I mean, I got super lucky, and when I first got hired, one of the practitioners was kind of on this journey too. One of the doctors that I was working with, and so I had a little bit more leeway to kind of be in that range. But I mean, we would sit down with patients, and I would be like, "Okay, hey, you're on 5 medications. You're not deficient in lisinopril. You're not deficient in a statin. Like, our
Mm-hmm.
goal should be to get you off of these." And most people are like, wait, I can get off of these medications? And some of them were excited about it, but a majority of them had no interest in getting off their
Right.
medications.
Wow. Yeah, that's scary because it's now your responsibility as the patient
Yeah.
to get better and do lifestyle. And I think people want a magic pill, which is a
Well,
is a scary side.
yeah, they absolutely want the quick fix. The tricky thing is it's scary for them once they're on the medication because they're under the mindset like, oh, my body's not okay without this. and
Mm,
and so it's kind of swinging the paradigm to where they understand, no, your body will be fine with these changes, but they're so, most of them have been on medications for 10, 20 years.
wow.
And so the idea of not taking it anymore is scary to them. They're like, okay, this is my crutch, this is my support. And so just re-educating and trying to get to patients before they end up on 5 to 10 medications. I mean, I can't tell you. I think I don't have a number, but almost all of my patients over 70 that would come in were on at least 3 medications.
Wow. And I'm
Yeah.
sure some of them are probably on those for quite a while,
Oh
yeah?
yeah. Hmm.
Wow, that's amazing that they come to you and surprise, like you're going to really work with them on levels they probably didn't even expect to begin with. So I really want to get into just the labels. I find this really fascinating for poultry and just like eggs. I think everyone has spent 10 minutes staring at that egg refrigerator in the grocery store, reading like, okay, these are the caged eggs, conventional, cage-free, free-range, pasture-raised. Oh, and here's like a mobile pasture, and here's this and this and this. What do all these labels mean, and do they have much validity in the grocery store?
No, it's almost impossible, specifically eggs, to find a good quality egg in the grocery store. And I think it's important to understand what the baseline chicken is raised in the United States. And 99.9% of chickens in the US are raised in a grow house. And so that's like a 600 foot by 40 foot warehouse, sometimes even longer than that, like 1,000 feet. And you have, 20,000 chickens just covering the floor. So they put wood chips down. The chickens are hanging out in there. That's a conventional raised chicken. They have waters, feeders, never go outside, never see the daylight. It's climate controlled. They're so packed in there that they literally have to take the chicks when they're born and they sear their beaks off so
Oh,
they don't peck and scratch each other because their instincts are to dig, scratch, find bugs and worms, and that's what they need their beak for. You can't breed those instincts out of them, and so they have to sear the beaks off so that they don't pick and scratch at each other when they're in these grow houses. And
it
that's your Costco rotisserie chicken. That's your standard whatever you're getting at the store. That's just anything that just says chicken. That's how your conventional chicken's raised. The feed is nothing but soy and corn. So because of how much soy and corn they're eating, that's getting into the meat. That's being passed on to the consumer. We always say you are what you eat eats. And so that's your conventional chicken. So that's the baseline that we start from, and then we can talk about the greenwashing of certain labels. So I always say, okay, we start with conventional chicken. How do we go from conventional chicken to a free range chicken? So all free range means is that a chicken has access to the outdoors. So you take that grow house, you cut a hole in the end of it, a little door, and you put a concrete pad on the outside. You give those chickens access to the outdoor. That's now labeled a free range chicken.
wow. Will they
So
ever even go outside if that's the access?
most of them are raised in extremely hot, humid places. All their food and waters are inside. So there's really no incentive for them to go outside at all.
Mm.
So you have a free range chicken you're paying an extra dollar a pound for in the grocery store, and it's raised exactly like your conventional chicken. Then say I want to buy, spend a couple more dollars and get a organic free range chicken. The organic free range chickens raised the exact same way. The only difference is that corn and soy gets switched out for organic corn and soy. So you're still eating a chicken that was raised in a grow house, never went outside, was pumped full of so organic wouldn't be pumped full of antibiotics, but your conventionals are. Um, but they were vaccinated at birth because they're in such terrible conditions. So now you're paying all this extra money for essentially the same bird. All you've subbed out was the organic feed. So
Wow.
that's free range. That's organic. The next one, which when you go to the grocery store and you're looking at eggs and you see cage free, for a long time, you would have like a 1 foot by 2 foot cage where there'd be like three laying hens in and they would lay their eggs and they drop down. That was just atrocious. Several years ago, California passed a law basically banning that. And so people still put cage free on it, but most of that's not how egg layers are raised anymore. Meat birds were never raised in cages. They got too big and they couldn't do that. But that's why you see cage free. It doesn't really mean a lot. They're still raised in grow
Mhm.
houses. They're still pumped full of corn and soy. And so that's what cage free means. The gold standard for a long time where you thought you could trust it was pasture raised.
Mhm.
So like a pasture raised, soy free, organic chicken in my head is how we raise it. I'm picturing it outside on grass, moved every single day to fresh pasture. But that's not even true. So um, the USDA doesn't regulate pasture raised when it comes to meat birds. There's legislation and things that are happening to where that's changing. But essentially, forever, the USDA saw pasture raised the same as free range. So as long
Wow.
as they had access to the outdoor, it doesn't have to be a single blade of grass. That could be a pasture raised chicken. It's changing for meat birds. It's still not going to change for a while for egg layers. So um, if you the new legislation is going to say over 50% of their life has to be spent outside, and it has to be on pasture, which is considered over 51% of the ground has to be like have vegetation and stuff on it. So there are making strides to carry a little bit more weight in the pasture label or pasture raised label, but forever you were paying for a pasture raised organic bird that never went outside, never touched pasture once in its life.
Wow, this is crazy. And I'm still like, I still haven't moved past that they sear the beaks off of chicks.
Yeah,
How is this legal? I feel like that's animal cruelty right there.
absolutely. And that's another thing we really pay attention to in what we do. It, we want the animal's life to be as close to nature intentions as possible. And so the way we raise animals is we joke around, we say we want the chicken to explain that we want the chicken to um, to basically show the chickenness, their natural instincts. We want them to live in an environment that they can basically mimics what they would be in nature the closest we can. And so if you sear a chicken's beak off, put it outside in its natural environment, it would die. It wouldn't be able
Yeah.
to pick, scratch. It wouldn't be able to do any of that. But when the Industrial Revolution came around, it really affected the food industry too. Big ag, grow as much food as fast as you can in the most controlled system possible. And that's what our food system is at now. And so over the last 10 years, we've started to see, people shift and pay attention and realize that, all right, hey, we're getting sick because of what we're eating. And so you've started to see a big transition into, especially younger generations, where I don't know if it's necessarily just through social media or just more information available, but you're really starting to see people pay attention to what they're eating and how it's raised.
It has gotten really big. I think honestly having whistleblower social media information's now at everyone's fingertips. While it can be a double-edged sword, I love what it's done for transparency in the food industry. So I'm curious what you think about this. one piece of pushback that I've gotten a lot when I share about like a raw dairy farm that keeps babies with moms and how the cows are so happy, or my favorite like beef farm that I've used over the years. It's like we're keeping the cows happy, and people are like, well, if you're eating it anyways, like why do you care about the welfare of the animals, right? They're like, you're just killing it anyways. You're a hypocrite. What is your rebuttal to people who don't understand, like the people who think that there is an issue with wanting to care about animal welfare while also obviously like butchering them and eating them?
Yeah, and again, I think whether it's vegans or animal welfare, I think they have a point. If you're going to take a life to sustain a life, our goal has always been to make that animal's life the highest quality it can, and that goes from birth on. And so we think that God has designed this plant for animals to raise, and we want to mimic that. We're not trying to make it better. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We want to mimic what nature has done the closest we possibly can. And so that goes from the time the animal's born to the way it's raised, and even the way you process it. Because what's the point of putting all this effort into animal welfare and making sure that the chicken's life is great if you're going to throw it on a trailer, drive it 20 hours away to be processed? Like even that last portion of it is stressed out. And so we always work with the processing facilities. We make sure that it's up to our standards, that it's the least stressful way, because if you're processing an animal and they're under an immense amount of stress the last 24 hours of their life, they're releasing cortisol, they're releasing all these hormones into the meat, and that's going to make the meat even worse too. So one, it's just terrible for the animal. Two, it makes the final product worse. And so we really emphasize start to finish animal welfare, and then the way it's processed, because all of that eventually comes back to the consumer too. So you respect the animal life. We always try to go nose to tail or beak to talon on a chick. Use the whole body, because it is a big deal. If you're gonna, like I said, sacrifice a life to sustain a life, you really need to respect that life.
Yeah, I love that. And I agree. I think God's design is perfect. And when we stray from that, that's when we have issues. And anything that God has for us is good for us. And I feel that a lot. Like I was vegan for years and my health was never worse.
Right.
And versus being ancestral animal based, I just got my labs back like yesterday and they're gorgeous. And I'm like, okay, God's design is perfect. Something that's right is going to go with nature, not against it.
Right.
So I always go back to that. It's just a fact of life, right? Okay, so I'm super curious. I, for a while, was buying these pasture raised eggs with my imperfect produce order. And I was like, yay, they're the pasture raised, spending extra money on them. And then all of a sudden, after months of eating them, I saw it said vegetarian fed pasture raised. And I felt like some alarms went off in my head. Can pasture raised chickens actually be vegetarian fed?
No, it's
Why is
impossible,
okay.
because if they're actually outside on grass, they're going to be eating bugs and worms and different things that they come across. I mean, we'll walk out and our layers are out in the pasture, and I'll see our hens run down like a beetle flying by, and they'll pick it out of the air. Like
Yeah.
they're natural scavengers. They're omnivores. They're going to eat seeds, but they're also going to eat bugs and worms. And you just watch them. You watch them out in the pasture in their natural environment, and they're picking and scratching. The reason vegetarian fed came about was because a lot of producers in the past would grind up dead chickens and feed them back to the chickens.
Oh my gosh.
So they were recycling that, and they were consuming other chickens. And so vegetarian fed was a way to say, all right, hey, we're not feeding them other animal byproducts that we've ground up and fed back to the chickens. And so that's really where vegetarian fed comes from. And so essentially, as soon as you see vegetarian fed, you know that this bird is inside and never going outside.
Like it's literally never once been on a pasture. They can't put
Right.
that on the label. Do conventional chicken, like industrial farmers, still do the whole cannibalism thing?
No, so there's a lot more regulation on it now. I don't know if you remember mad cow disease, because
Mm-hmm.
they're feeding it back to cows, and you were having all sorts of issues with that. It's similar with chickens; they've cut down that quite a bit. But again, I mean, if these chickens die in the grow houses, the other birds will pick and scratch at them.
Wow. That is So crazy to me. I mean, I feel like it's a dark industry.
Yeah, and I mean, it's anytime you're doing assembly line production with the food system, this is what you get. It's
Yeah.
how fast, how big, how quickly can we raise it for the most profit, and the animal welfare is the first thing that goes out the window.
It's crazy to me, and I think that this is why it's so important to shake hands with your farmers, go as local, go as, small farmers you can. Like I even now, like with the raw dairy farm I drive over to, like I've made a point of asking the farmer, like, can I go meet your cows? I want to meet your animals. I think people should do that more and
Yeah,
actually understand where their food comes from. We've become so disconnected, especially in these urban environments. People don't care where their food came from. They just care about their macros, especially in the fitness world. It's really sad because not only are the animals suffering, but we're suffering too. I mean, I feel
right.
like people really do need to connect back to the source. Do you invite people to come visit your farm?
Absolutely, yeah. We've always had policy. The other thing I say, if you're buying from somebody and you can't go onto their website and see video or pictures of their animals, you can't go to their Instagram and see stories being shared of how their animals are raised. You can't see their posts of them walking with the animals. If they're hiding it, if it's hard to see how the animals are raised, you know that they're hiding something.
Yeah, definitely. Because the ones who are doing it right, that's like they want to promote that and share that. It's like a
Yeah,
very
it's great
exciting
marketing.
thing.
That's
Yeah.
like transparency has been our best marketing thing is, hey, this is how we're raising it. We try and educate too. Like, yes, this is what pasture raised corn and soy free organic chickens look like, but people can label it that and it doesn't look like this too. So,
Yeah.
the other thing you'll see, I didn't talk about this, but you'll start to see some companies have switched to pasture access instead
Mm,
of pasture raised. And so they still have that pasture word on there. The birds have access to the pasture, but they never go outside.
wow. And I feel like the consumer really like loses out here because I see people doing their best, right? Spending their extra money and working hard trying to read the labels. And it's kind of like a big screw job to the people who are
Oh,
actually
absolutely. Yeah.
trying to spend money and do the right thing. I know that one thing that you guys do differently is you're not vaccinating your chickens. I would love to hear why and what you do instead to just promote their health.
Yeah. So this is one of the biggest things that differentiates us too. We actually have to pay extra from the brooder to get our chicks before they vaccinate them because as
Wow.
soon as they're hatched, they're all vaccinated. So we have to pay extra to get our chicks removed from any assembly line that does all the vaccination and pull them off. And it's simple. Like, it goes back to God's design. These animals are around for thousands of years, tens of thousands of years. They survived just fine without the vaccines before in the
Mhm.
right environment. But if you're raising animals in a conventional setting, a lot of times they have these massive outbreaks and they can't afford to lose 20, 30,000 birds from these outbreaks. So you have the mare's vaccine that they get right away. And without that, you can lose an entire flock. And that's extremely expensive. But the way we raise our animals, they're outside on fresh pasture. They get sunlight, fresh air. We move them every single day. So they're not sitting in their feces every day. Like a grow house, they poop and they just sit on it. You know what I
Sick.
mean? They're just stuck in there. So after our animals poop, they fertilize the ground. We move the whole coop. They're on fresh pasture. There's nothing going on underneath them. All that bacteria, which is good bacteria for the soil, bad for a chicken to sit in, all that bacteria and everything stays where they were. You move. And guess what? If there are viruses or if there is anything in that poop, not only are you moving them, but what kills viruses? Ultraviolet light. The sun hits
Mhm.
that within 24 hours, any of that virus has been neutralized. And so, literally, you just raise animals the way they're supposed to be raised, and you don't need that. But you can't have that same philosophy when you have a grow house and you've created these man-made horrors.
Yeah.
And so you have to vaccinate them. You have to pump them full of antibiotics because they're raised in such a way that their bodies can't handle it and they can't survive without them.
That's so crazy. Are they giving chickens mRNA vaccines right now?
So no, there's some in trials. When Bobby Kennedy got in, they squashed a lot of that.
Bless.
That was definitely coming down the pipe for sure. A lot of there was a huge bird flu outbreak. They killed hundreds of thousands of egg layers, so there was an egg shortage. That was wild to me too, because in my head, if you have 3 or 4 chickens out of 20,000 that test positive for bird flu, it would make sense to me that you would remove those birds. And then if the rest of the birds survive and do fine, that's what I would breed from. They would have immunity from
Hmm.
it. They would have a stronger immune system. But what they do is, even if one bird in the entire flock tested positive, they would come and they would, in these grow houses, they would just fill it up with foam and suffocate all the chickens, even the healthy ones, and just kill them
Wow.
off. So they basically manufactured the egg shortage by the way they handled it, instead
Wow.
of raising chickens that have robust immune systems, uh, and being able to handle these viruses, to where if they do get reinoculated with it, it doesn't affect them. They're just killing all of them, and then you start back from square one. And that's definitely not how I would handle it. But chickens outside on pasture don't have near the issues of being in a grow house.
Yeah, this is crazy to me too because I feel like when, we just saw the big like whistleblower come out with the Alexandria farms and all of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we see when it's mammals, I feel like there's this level of care and attention and people care. But I feel like the cruelty towards chickens doesn't really ever hit people's radar. And I'm like, is it because they're not mammals? Like, what is the deal? Because the foam thing to me just is absolutely vile.
Oh, it's terrible. Yeah. And it's funny that you say that, because I was just reading a report on, trying to remember what it was called, but it was basically endangered species. And the ones that get the most funding are the cute ones, the ones
Mhm.
that uh, feel close to like dolphins, elephants, cow, just mammals basically that relate mostly to humans. And so chickens kind of seem, I don't know, they're a little more, um, yeah, they're not as, I don't know the right way to say it, but it doesn't draw that same feeling as like if a dog was being abused, or something
Right.
along those lines.
Which it should, though. I mean, if we're called to be stewards, we're called to be stewards of all the land.
Right.
And I'm so passionate about that. And I think like a lot of what you're telling me, I've never even heard before. And I feel like I'm someone who does my best to research. So for the average person, this is pretty mind-blowing. And then so with the antibiotics, do a lot of companies also use antibiotics to make a bigger profit margin with bigger chickens?
Well, here's the thing with antibiotics and what drives me crazy. Almost all chickens are fed antibiotics,
Hmm.
unless there's specifically said no antibiotics ever, because you can be antibiotic free and still have received antibiotics, as long as they stop the antibiotics closest to your processing date, that it's considered out of their system.
Wow.
Uh, that is still an antibiotic free chicken. So just because you're going to the store and you're buying something that says antibiotic free, that just means that they likely were taken off the antibiotics within 72 hours of being processed.
Oh my gosh. And then would this lead to, I feel like if you're constantly putting an entire species on antibiotics, it would lead to resistance with the bacteria and all the different infections. And then would that even get into the people if they're eating that?
Exactly. And so Joel Salatin, who we look up to immensely, we got started reading his books. He talks about this all the time, but a majority of antibiotics in the world, or specifically the US, not the world, are used on livestock. And
Wow.
so they're pumping it into cows, they're pumping it into chickens, and it's all because of how it's raised. You don't need antibiotics if they're raised in a healthy environment. And so, yeah, exactly. You have these chickens who are pumped full of antibiotics, and it's prophylactically. And so a lot of times before they're even sick, because they know they're going to get sick. But what happens is you have these bacteria that are continuously exposed to antibiotics, and some of those don't die all the way, and they get stronger and they get resistant to the bacteria, the antibiotics we're giving them. And so what eventually happens is you create these superbugs that are resistant to the antibiotics that we have. And then you have to worry about, okay, is that going to get into humans? Is that something that when humans start to get sick, we no longer have these antibiotics to treat these diseases? And so it's a huge issue. And unfortunately, because of how big farm culture is, that's the way they do it, and that's what we're left dealing with.
Oh my gosh, that is really scary. And I think what people don't realize is once you over, like I was listening to a podcast about this a while ago and it really scared me. Like once the world over antibioticizes, I don't know, I'm making up words here.
I like it.
Thank you. It's a new word now, but there's a point where that's really dangerous for civilization. If all of these bugs are now immune or resistant to all of the antibiotics, like there's obviously a time and place, but the overprescription, the overuse is actually extremely dangerous for civilization as we know it. And I feel like that's not getting enough attention.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, you're unnecessarily creating these super bugs, and basically it's a perpetual motion machine where you pump them full of antibiotics, the bacteria gets stronger, you have to pump them full of more antibiotics, and then stronger antibiotics and broader antibiotics, and basically you just keep pushing the buck down the line until eventually we may not have anything to actually treat that.
Wow. Oh my gosh. And you know what? I probably get in a lot of trouble with fellow Christians because I've had it out a little bit for Chick-fil-A in the past few years. And didn't they, just because I'm like, I believe Christian companies should be held to a very certain standard as far as caring for animals and caring for humans. Didn't they recently roll back on they were antibiotic free and then they went back to antibiotics?
I haven't seen that. I had to give up on Chick-fil-A a while ago. Their food was great, but I mean, you look at it, I think there's like 100 ingredients in their chicken sandwich
It's
between the bun.
crazy.
Their chicken breast has like 30 ingredients in it.
It has aluminum in it.
How does a chicken breast have 30 ingredients? It's just wild to me. And essentially, if you're paying attention to what you're eating and you want to eat healthy and clean, you can't go to a chain restaurant. It just
No.
doesn't exist.
No. Yeah, it scares me. I even had a friend recently he was kind of debating, but he's like, "Yeah, if you think about it, like at McDonald's, like the egg McGriddle sandwich is actually pretty healthy. I mean, it's just bread, meat, cheese, and egg. Like it might be greasier." And I'm like, "It is not just bread, meat, cheese, and egg. It is that meat is not just meat, that cheese
Right.
is not just cheese, that egg is not just egg. Like it is so many more ingredients than you could possibly imagine, and
Yeah.
that's very scary to think about."
Yeah, on paper, 30 years ago, it may have been eggs, meat, cheese, but yeah, the cheese probably has 20 ingredients. The bread for sure has like 30 or 40 ingredients. It's just wild.
Yeah, absolutely. And then with chicken also, what's the whole deal with like the chlorine wash, the bleaching? Like what's going on with chicken?
Yeah, so when you process chicken, you've heard issues with salmonella, different bacteria that naturally occur on the skin, um, because of how tightly packed conventional raised chicken is, and the conditions they're in. They're filthy when they're
Mm,
processed, and so what they do is a lot of times they put them in a chlorine bath and they soak them in there, and that kills most of the bacteria on the skin. We call it a bleach bath. That's what they are doing, and then they rinse it off, and that's what you're eating. And who knows if all of it actually gets off. We use a vinegar bath. It does the exact same thing. Vinegar is much more healthy for you. It's not, going to be a neurotoxin or anything like that, and it serves the same purpose. And so, essentially, because of how they're raised, that's part of, and that can be considered organic. If you're bleaching the chicken during processing, that can still be your organic chicken. and,
wow.
and so that's, all these labels have so many more loopholes. And the other thing is, like, you look at the organic label itself, there's still like 200 and something, just for like fruit and vegetables, there's still like 200 and something things you can spray on organic fruits. Like, it's not like they're just untouched. It's very important to know where your food comes from and how they're raising it, and not
Yeah.
just blindly trusting labels in the grocery store.
Yeah, I had to stop getting my produce from Whole Foods because they rolled out A-Peel on their organic. I was like, are you kidding me? You're supposed to be the
Yeah.
healthy store, but okay. Like, it's extremely frustrating. And I really feel for people who don't have time to obsessively research everything or don't have the knowledge and like truly are doing their best.
Well,
And
it's
it's,
tough. I mean,
yeah,
I've been doing this for 13 years now, and I'm still learning, like,
yeah.
every single day, every industry. Now my default is just to not trust anything you buy and then work from there, because for so long we were lied to. But yeah, it's not anything somebody's just going to figure out overnight. Like, it's a
Mm-mm.
continuous learning model where you just have to pay attention and ask questions and always assume that they're not really having your best interest.
Yeah, and it's like it's a moving target, right? There's always something new being rolled out, and that's where it's like a little guilty until proven innocent,
Yeah,
honestly. And the only real thing that you can trust is when you're going and either you're growing your own food or you're visiting your farm, you're getting
yeah.
to know them and shaking hands with your farmers, which for so many reasons I really recommend. Why are more industrial chicken farmers or just different companies not doing vinegar wash instead of a chlorine wash? That seems pretty intuitive to just do that instead.
Um, Mainly because of how much dirtier their birds are. Like, bleach
Mm.
obviously works better. It kills everything. And so that's just kind of been the standard of care. They don't have to worry about it. They're doing hundreds of thousands of birds an hour in these processing plants. And if they get a recall, they have to go back and take all that chicken out. And so it's just not worth it to them. It's sterilization over sanitation.
Wow, this is crazy. I mean, I have a member of my extended family who works in like a conventional cherry farm, and he handles like putting the cherries in like the room where they blast it with chlorine and chemicals and then take it out, whatever. And his mom was telling me how people working at this facility were getting really sick from all the chlorine exposure. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, yet this going on our food? Like
Right.
this
You're going
is
to eat that?
yeah, you're gonna eat that? Like, this is so crazy to me.
Yeah.
I just find this wild. Are you guys in stores? I think people are gonna wanna go buy your product after listening to this.
Yeah, so we aren't in any stores. We're all direct to consumer. So you can go to primalpastures.com, and we have everything available online, and we ship to all 50 states in the US. It comes frozen with dry ice. You can go on, pick what you want, and usually within a day or two after you order, we have it shipped to you.
Amazing. And what are you like mentioned earlier some of the different offerings. Can you give me a list of some of your best offerings that people are loving?
Yeah, so chicken's obviously the one that really differentiates us the most. There's maybe one or two other farms that raise chickens the way we do in the U.S. Otherwise, you can't get a pasture raised organic corn and soy free chicken that's actually raised outside on grass and without vaccines. So that's chicken. We also do grass fed, grass finished beef, grass fed, grass finished lamb. We do pork. Our pork is the cleanest pork you can get in the country. It's outside pasture raised, no vaccines. Everything that they're fed comes from the farm. It's raised on the farm. It's Yeah, the pork is out of this world too. Um, we do turkeys around the holidays. We
Mm.
have raw, unfiltered wildflower honey, which is phenomenal. And then we do some wild line caught fish off the coast of the Pacific coast. So we do canned tuna, but then we also have salmon, we have trout, we have steelhead trout, we have sea bass periodically, all wild line caught off the coast of California, and that all online primalpastures.com and can be shipped to your door.
Amazing. I'm drooling. Wait, so this episode will be coming out a little bit before Thanksgiving. How in advance do people have to order or like secure a turkey from you to get one for
Yeah,
Thanksgiving?
so turkeys are tough. We usually sell through our turkeys in less than a week.
Wow.
Yeah, and so we actually we're sending out an email soon. So it's like 2 months ahead of time. We send out an email just to get people on the waiting list, and then yeah, when we release them, usually the first week of October, they're spoken for within that first week. We sell through all of them.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
Congratulations. I mean, that's a testament to you guys. I'm like, wait, I need to get on that list because I want one of your
we'll get you
turkeys
on
at
the list.
Thanksgiving. That would be the dream to bring the world's cleanest turkey to Thanksgiving. I think I would be everyone's favorite daughter,
Oh
which
yeah.
yeah, no, I bet it tastes absolutely amazing too. Okay, and I know earlier you'd mentioned that you love to do like beak to talon eating, that more ancestral. Can you share some of your favorite tips and tricks to utilize the whole animal, especially when it comes to chickens?
Oh, for sure. So, one of our newer products that I'm super excited about is we do a primal blend, and so it's the heart, the liver, ground up with ground chicken.
Amazing.
And so most of not most of the significant amount of nutrients is in the heart and the liver and the organ meats, and being able to consume those. A lot of people are turned off by the taste and the flavor. You look at beef heart, you look at chicken heart. Chicken organs are exponentially more mild than beef. So if you really
Mm.
don't like beef liver, I would try chicken liver. It's much more mild and easier to tolerate. Neither of them bother me at all. A lot of people, after you've done it for a little bit, doesn't bother you. Some people are texture eaters and they think it may be chalky. Um, but yeah, so we use the organs. The gizzards are great. You can barbecue them, you can fry them in beef tallow, and they're really good.
Ooh.
Um, but yeah, so we emphasize that. But then everything from the chicken backs we use to make our chicken bone broth. The feet are great for bone broth. So every part of the chicken can be used. And historically, up until 100, maybe even 50, 60 years ago, they were used. You would
Hmm.
kill the chicken in your backyard, and you would take it, you take the carcass, you'd boil it down into chicken stock, chicken broth, and that's how it was. And that's really what the way I encourage my family to eat and our customers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's for so many reasons, it's so nutritious that way, and it's so sustainable. You're really utilizing the most. Do you guys sell like beef marrow bones?
We do, yeah, we do have marrow
Amazing.
bones available. And yeah, if you're making your own bone broth, it's great for your gut health, which essentially affects everything from your anxiety, depression, things like that, to even your skin health. The collagen in bone broth is phenomenal. So yeah, definitely recommend making bone broth and drinking it.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, I just got on bone marrow like a couple weeks ago. My traditional Chinese medicine doctor who does acupuncture, he's like, you really need to start eating bone marrow. So I started, I'll slow cook it and then I'll use the
Okay.
bones and then, so I'll eat the marrow,
Yeah.
like spread it on something like butter, and then
Hmm.
use the bones for like 3 days. I'll slow cook the bones and make bone broth, and I'll add dehydrated organs, and it's
There you go.
jiggly. You know what I mean? It's
Okay.
like, it's
Right. It's yeah.
really jiggly. It's
Gelatinous.
so
It's
good.
very gelatinous. Yeah. That's how
Yeah.
you know you got good stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah, how is making your own bone broth different than just buying it at the store?
Yeah, so a lot of times the store-bought broths are they actually call them like beef stock, where it's just way more water than anything.
Mm,
If you get like an actual broth, it'll be very gelatinous. It'll look like Jello, and it'll shake until you heat it up. That's how you know that you've gotten one with a lot of collagen, a lot of the gelatin, and that the collagen that gives it that form, and it's much better.
yeah, I feel like it makes you gorgeous when you drink it, you know? It's like the world's greatest beauty food. It's literally just straight collagen blasting to your skin and hair and nails, like, makes your gut so happy first
Oh
thing in
yeah,
the morning. Forget about it. It's so good.
do that, and then put some beef tallow on your face,
Oh,
your
yeah.
skin. That's how you do it.
Oh, heck yeah. Oh my gosh, speaking of, okay, so being obviously the brother company to I don't know, brother company, sister company to Primally Pure.
I'm the brother-in-law of
Yeah.
Primal Pastures, but yeah, they are our sister company, is what I consider
Yeah.
them. So yeah, yeah. So we've been working with them lately, and works to have them start using our tallow in a lot of their products too. So
That's incredible.
we tested our suet, which is the fat from the kidneys, liver, pancreas, versus other grass-fed brands, and our tallows omega 3 to 6 ratio was exponentially better. So just a healthier product, and we're excited to launch that with them.
That's incredible. Oh, I mean, I've been using Primally Pure for years and I love it. It is absolutely amazing. So just knowing that both companies together are just committed to the highest quality of care for consumers is just beyond inspiring. And I really hope also like an important beacon and inspiration to smaller companies who are trying to figure out how they are going to operate as well. Because really, if you guys are doing this and you're making it work and doing things with intention and care, that should show other people that it's possible to stay regenerative, to stay ethical, to stay really close to nature and to how God intended us to steward the land.
Oh, absolutely. And again, the thing that really helps us be successful is we're not in it to make a ton of money. We're in it to feed our family, and that's always
Yeah.
been our goal. Is you know, I've got 4 kids now, and I'm raising them up, and this is how I want them to eat. And I mean, we haven't really had any health issues, luckily. But being able to do that and provide for our family, like this isn't just something that we're trying to make a ton of money off of. So knowing that that's the mindset behind the companies should make consumers feel a lot better too. That, yeah, this is, I mean, you look at like Idaho potato farmers who raise for McDonald's, they don't even touch the potatoes. They don't even go into the
Mhm.
field. You know what I mean? Like they're raising their own potatoes on the side for their family. That's what you want to look for. If the
Mm.
farmer's eating the food and feeding their family it, then you know.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, like it's what you're gonna feed your family is gonna be a lot different than what you just do on like out if you're just in it for the money. That is
Right.
so true.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I love to ask all the people who come on the show because I just think it's really a really beautiful way for people to understand where even the experts are at is what is your current health goal?
Yeah. So it's funny because I always go back to my health. A lot of people in the American concept just think of their physical health, but
Mhm.
my health goal is my spiritual health. So every day I want to spend time in the Word. I want to make sure that my church family is strong. That's super important. My physical health, obviously. So making sure I'm getting enough sleep, making sure that I'm eating the right things, making sure that I'm exercise. My emotional health, so my relationship with my wife and my kids and my family is strong. The overall health to me is not just physical health, which I feel like most people get hung up on, because if your emotional health, your spiritual health, if those are out of whack, it's going to affect your physical health. It's going to start manifesting in physical ways. And so
Mhm.
I take time to make sure I do that. I'm exercising, I'm eating well, but also doing what I can to make sure that my marriage is where it needs to be and it's being tended to as well.
Yeah. Oh, I love that, and especially right now, I think that's so important for us to be prioritizing our spiritual health right now. This episode will obviously be coming out a little bit later in the fall, but for those listening, we are recording just days after the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And I don't know about you, but I have seen a level of revival in my own church that, I mean, going to church on Sunday, I go to the early 8 a.m. with all the retired community because I like
Nice.
that service. And it's normally pretty quiet. The other services are a little bit more, like, loud and rowdy and people my age. It was like heaven on earth. I mean, church bursting at the seams with people, but the people were also just worshiping like I haven't seen before, and I'm seeing it all over the internet. I mean, I don't know if you're seeing a difference in your church, but I certainly am.
No, and yeah, and I think it comes back to really, you saw an innocent person who, was, I mean, the images were just awful, but you saw a true tale of good versus evil. It was
Yeah.
just, there was, I can't think of in my lifetime something where you really can't justify the actions of the other person. You know what I mean? It was
Mhm.
so blatantly obvious, good versus evil in this moment, and it's making people with witnessing pure evil. You're witnessing that there is good, and they're seeking Jesus, and they're seeking the answer.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful silver lining and seeing God use tragedy and knowing that he always has purpose. And I don't know about you, but it's made me want to go so much harder in what I'm doing here because I'm like, you know what? Like, so like I've lost a lot of followers sharing my stance on all of it and sharing the gospel and all of this. And I'm like, what's that to a life? What's that in comparison? I'm just going to double down even harder and try to get people healthy and try to bring heaven to earth in the ways that God has called me to. And I think you guys are doing something really similar with what you're doing, just stewarding the land, being open about where you stand, and not compromising along the way.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I've loved this chat. Where can people connect with you on? I know you mentioned where people can order. I'll make sure to put that in the show notes. Where can they connect if they want to follow you on social media?
Yeah. So we're at Primal Pastures on Instagram. Our Facebook's up. We have a TikTok. So we're interactive on all of that. Email us if you want to talk, and then also just come out and see us.
Amazing. Yeah, I definitely want to schedule a visit. That would be so much fun. You guys, if you love this episode, make sure to check out Primal Pastures. I will put that link for you to order in the show notes. They are giving such high quality nourishment to you, so I highly recommend it. And yeah, Rob, thank you so much for joining today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. This was fun.